Hey guys, it's Faye from Solar Flow and I am back with another video. Today's topic is a deep dive behind the veil energy read on Tupac Shakur. Who he was in this lifetime, who he was in a previous incarnation, and what is going on with the mysterious occurrences that happened after he was killed, what happened to his body in the morgue, and we're also going to discuss, is he really dead? So if this sounds like an interesting topic to you, please stick around. And if not, I'll catch you at another video. So Tupac Shakur, this was a wild one. This took me by surprise. Excuse me. A lot of interesting things kind of came to light in doing this energy reading on Tupac Shakur. And I just want to give it a shout out to my friend Gila. This video is by request. She has specifically requested Tupac. And as you guys know, I do take requests. So if there's somebody's energy that you want me to look into and see if their energy wants to talk, go ahead and comment down below. Okay, so Tupac. For anyone who doesn't know, Tupac Shakur is an American rapper who was quite a prolific recording artist. And there was a lot of speculation, in fact, if after he was dead or after he was killed, if he was in fact dead, because even after he was dead, there was a lot of music that was released from him on an ongoing basis. And that kind of fueled this conspiracy theory, as well as some things that had happened to his body while it was in the possession of the morgue in Las Vegas, Nevada. Now, what is fascinating about Tupac as a performer was the proliferation of music that he had been creating. His dharma, or his destiny, so to say, was to come in to this lifetime, this incarnation, as somebody named Tupac Shakur, and make an indelible impression on the music industry, but without the attachment to it. And what that means is that because he was killed at a young age and he didn't get to live out the entirety of his life here, or what we would consider to be a full life, which is not where you're killed at a young age, but you live into your older years. But that was very much by design and by what his sole purpose was. And his sole purpose was to come here and make this indelible impression on the music industry and to go. And that's exactly what he did. And why was this his sole purpose? Why was this his soul's mission, so to say? And it is because Tupac Shakur, in this incarnation as Tupac, and in another one, a previous incarnation that we're going to discuss momentarily, he is a star seed. And what a star seed is a soul that agrees to be seated, so to say, at a particular time and space throughout civilization and throughout humanity, with the express purpose of raising either the energy or raising the vibration or raising the consciousness, or in some way, shape, or form, helping humanity evolve through their actions here. And the way that he did that was through his contribution to music as Tupac Shakur. Now, what was very interesting when I was also looking into his energy was I kept being shown flashes of a previous incarnation that he has had as well. So I kind of like turned my attention to the eye, turned my eye to the side, and I was like, okay, Tupac, yes, what I'm looking at right now is very interesting, but you're letting it be known to me that you really have something else that you want to show to me. So I'm going to surrender my intention of looking into this incarnation, and I'm going to allow you to lead me to something else that you want to show me. So he drew my attention to who he was in a previous incarnation, and specifically why it connects so much to his this most recent incarnation he had as Tupac. So who he was in a previous incarnation was Mozart. And for anyone who does not know, Mozart is a classical composer from the 1700s. I believe he was born somewhere in the 1750s and he died somewhere in the 1790s. But the fascinating thing about Mozart is that he also left an indelible impression on the world through his musical composition. But what was so specifically notable about him was the fact that his greatest musical accomplishments were composed after he was already losing his hearing. And he did in fact die completely deaf. He started to lose his hearing at the age of 25. And his greatest masterpieces, and in fact the greatest musical contributions that he had made, were all composed after that age. And the reason for that is the starseed, their purpose in coming here is not one to fulfill a ego-based mission, right? So we all, let's say, have certain things that in our lifetime that we would like to accomplish, whatever it may be. A starseed soul purpose has nothing to do with the ego. It has nothing to do with the recognition. It has nothing to do with the reward. It has nothing to do with the fame and the fortunes and the fame and the riches that they may accumulate because of it. Their entire soul purpose is just to help humanity evolve. So, in his incarnation as Mozart, he passed away without having heard his greatest masterpieces, and it was done really just expressly for the purpose of helping humanity evolve through his musical contribution, but not even being able to hear it. The same thing happened very similarly with his incarnation as Tupac, in which he was taken out of as a very young age. It was really when he was just starting to get into his groove musically, which is so unusual to say because he was so prolific even at a very, very young age, that I even kind of like had to ask, how could that be? And the reason for that is that he was receiving a lot of the divine inspiration for the music that he was creating, and it came to him in his dreams. And it came to him in his dreams because his crown chakra was wide open, and he could very easily connect directly through his crown chakra to pure source divine energy. So in his dreams, he would be receiving downloads and all of the information that he needed to make his contribution in this lifetime through music. But in addition to that, through his contributing and through his learning more about music and about the lyrics and about the musical composition, he was becoming very, very, I would say even beyond gifted, beyond the gifts that he was receiving through his downloads, beyond the gifts that he had, that it was his purpose in coming here. It was through all of that that he was becoming even better at it because he was gaining more experience from it. So he was really starting to get like into his musical groove as he was getting older, and he was getting better and better and better. Now, part of the I guess the what had fueled this idea of if he had actually really been killed was that after he passed away, there was so much music that was still being released. And that was not because he was still alive and he was still recording it and maybe like living on an island somewhere, living his best little island life out of the public eye. No, it was because only after he was dead was his family able to get into his stuff and into his possessions and to start seeing how much pre-recorded music that had not been released he still had. He had just tons of musical reserves, and they were just releasing it posthumously after he had passed away. But it's not because he was still alive. Okay, so first of all, let's just talk about, is he alive, or has he crossed over? And I'm going to tell you that honestly, he's no longer on this side. He has crossed over. And the way in which energy is, the way I can read the energy on people to determine what side they're on is, first of all, if you think about the difference between the light that a candle gives off and the light that a torch gives off, they're very, very different. The candle gives off a teeny tiny bit of light, but it's still there. And a torch gives off an enormous amount of light that you can see from a much wider distance and from further away. And reading the energy of a soul is very much the same way. The degree in which how strong I can sense their energy really does determine which side they are on, if they are still here on the earth plane or if they have crossed over. He has definitely crossed over. He is no longer with us. So now that we've established that, let's kind of go into some of the circumstances that led to his crossing over. So first of all, he was making tremendous waves in the music industry. And if you have not seen my video on the music industry, I definitely recommend going back and watching that. And I'll link it down below because there's some important context in it, which is that when a musical artist is up and coming, it was really on their way up, there's people above them that are going to want to poach their talent if it's something that they themselves don't have. And what I mean to say by that is when someone has aligned themselves with the dark side, they are no longer working in concert with God's pure source energy. They are working with darker energies and darker undercurrents and darker vibrations. So what they are going to want to do is if somebody has a real incredible talent, they're going to want to recruit them over to the dark side. So if someone's a really magnetic performer, they don't want that person to have followers loving them and going to see their concert where they're creating positive vibrations. They're going to want to recruit them over to the dark side. If someone is an incredible songwriter, then they want to lock down that person's talent and harness it for the dark side, not for the light. If somebody is a fantastic lyricist or they're just gifted with music, there's any number of ways that this can show up. But the point is when somebody is getting really starting to make waves and climb their way up, and especially the way it was back then, it's very, very different now. Like now you really cannot break in to any level of meaningful success if you're not in the club. It was a little bit different back then. So he could get his foot in the door and he could start to work his way up, but there was a cap. And at some point when they were seeing the kind of music that he was producing and they were understanding how magnetic he was really, the way his energy was actually shown to me is, and it's gonna sound kind of funny, but it's like seltzer. So you know, first of all, seltzer, it's fizzy. Even if you don't shake the bottle, it's quite fizzy. So that was Tupac's energy. It was fizzy, it was vibrant, it was always like effervescent. It was actually kind of bubbly. And even more so, when he was excited about something, his energy was quite literally like if you had shaken up a bottle of seltzer and you opened it and how it would just expand and it would explode. So he could direct his energy and his positive intentions and his vibrations and his motivations into the music that he was creating. That can be very, very threatening because he was on the high vibe. As a starseed, he had a high vibration. He was not necessarily interested in the dark, heavy pursuits of people that were very connected to the three-dimensional. But they still went to him and they proposed a deal to him. But because he was so high vibration, he was not an energetic match with them, therefore he declined their offer. Now, let's pause here and just think about if, for example, the mob came to you and presented you with a deal and you declined, what do you think might happen? Do you think they're gonna let you go off to like some farm and raise sheep and live like a nice simple life? So, if you're lucky, you get blacklisted. You never work a day in the industry again. Blacklisted, okay? That's number one. There's other more nefarious things that can happen to an artist that don't include death, believe it or not. But in Tupac's case, it did. because he was making so many waves and he was so magnetic with his energy that the only way the dark side, this cabal that runs the industry, they could not allow his light to exist in the world if they could not harness it and they could not control it. So they felt their only option, the only thing that they could do, was to extinguish it. So that's what happened. Now, when I was trying to see the occurrences of what happened with his crossing over, I immediately started to hear like whispering in my ear. So I asked for clarification and I said, what is this whispering that I'm hearing and what is it, how is it connected to Tupac's crossing over? And I was shown that someone had gotten into the ear of the girlfriend. So he had a girlfriend at that time, and she had somehow had been offered something in exchange for her cooperation in working to get him to be in a certain place at a certain time where he was going to be taken out. And the instances of what happened in that case was, it's a bit staged. So first of all, I want you just to understand that whatever it was shown to have been in the way that he was taken out, it's not that way. That was done almost like it was a performance, almost like it was to promote some sort of an agenda that was being spoken about at that time, or, you know, if there was a supposed beef between different rappers. That was not actually the reason that he was taken out. It was staged to look that way, and that was the girlfriend's participation in getting him to be in this certain place at a certain time. It was staged to look that way, but that was not the actual reason why. He was taken out because they approached him with a deal and he declined the deal. Very magnetic, great performer, great lyricist, had a vibrant personality and vibrant energetic expression. The dark side could not allow that energy to exist in the world if they could not control it. That is the real reason behind the veil why he was taken out. So whatever it was shown on TV, whatever they were hypothesizing was going on, or beef or anything like that, was all staged. Now, what's so interesting in addition to that, sorry about that. What's so interesting in addition to that was looking at what had happened after he had actually crossed over to his body, and kind of like that mystery or suspicion if it had actually been his body. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. So first of all, I have not looked this up. You guys have watched me in the past, or if you're new here, hi, I'm Faye. I channel information. I'm also an energy reader, an energy healer. I can do astral traveling and remote viewing. In this case, what I was doing was reading the energy, Tupac's energy, and I was reading the energy of all the things that had happened around him. And in this specific case, so again, I don't research it. I haven't looked into it. Anything that I bring up, I'm not saying like this is not like a researched video. If you want like the timeline of Tupac's rise to fame and what happened to him, and you're not going to find that here. But if you want to know the things that are going on behind the veil, you've come to the right place. So what had happened in this case, again, because I have not looked into it in a very, very, very long time, like probably at least I would say 20 years. But my understanding of what occurred back then was that there was some mystery or confusion about if, in fact, it was Tupac's body, because it had disappeared, I believe, for some period of time. And then when it came back, it was somehow altered or it was somehow different. So to address why that is the case, we're going to go back in time. We're going to hop in a little time machine and we're going to go back in time 50 years or so. But I promise it connects, and it connects big time. So the way that Vegas was initially set up, not the way that it is currently, and not the way that it was back then when Tupac was killed, but the way that it was initially set up way, way, way back when, probably in like the 1950s, was it was going to be like a uncharted territory, a continuation of the properties and the lifestyle that the mob was running across the country. But this was untapped. It was like virgin snow right after the snowfall. And it was all desert. So they could really go to town with their ideas and their concepts of how they wanted to build it and what they wanted it to look like. And as I've spoken about actually in my video on Las Vegas, which definitely pertains here, and I've linked it below, is deserts are portals. The energy there is very, very pure and unrefined. Or refined. Unrefined? Or is it refined? Whatever it is, the energy in the desert is off the chart potent and powerful and pure. And there are naturally occurring portals there. But what happens is when you mess with the energetic vibration of a location, you're also messing with the kind of beings that are coming into the portals. And you're also changing the kind of people that would initially be drawn to such a location. So if you think about it, like, I'll give you an example of something that like very much connects to where I live in California. So there's a desert out here about 2 hours away called Palm Springs. And if you go like deep into Palm Springs, past Palm Springs, there's like, there's hotels there and whatnot. Then there's something called Joshua Tree. Joshua Tree is a preserved park where they have a lot of cactuses and like Joshua trees. That's why it's called Joshua Tree. But the energy there is very, very calm and soothing and relaxing. So it's going to attract a lot of people that want to have a simple life, want to have a calm life. Maybe it's artists. There's a lot of like artisans that are down there because they're very inspired by the pure energy in the desert. But imagine if somehow the natural preserved park of it was taken over and now suddenly they were building these huge casinos. So all of the calm, relaxed energy that would have been there before is going to start moving out, and it's going to attract a different kind of energy coming in. And that is very much what happened in Las Vegas. It went from being just a chilled, relaxed, like nothing basically, into a place that was built up by the mafia, by the mob. Now, what do you think happens to someone that has an outstanding, and we're not talking about now, because now you really got to pay to play, right? But back then, if someone had a gambling debt with the mob, so how would the mob deal with it? One thing they might do is, you're sleeping with the geckos tonight. Pow, pow, 2 pops to the back of the head. They dump you in the desert somewhere. Ain't nobody gonna find you because it's just this open wasteland. But what if they wanted to make an example out of somebody? So in that case, they would get more creative. They would want to make an example out of somebody by maybe torturing them, but keeping them alive, right? Or in certain cases, if the person really just couldn't pay, there was nothing that they could do, they would make an example out of the person. They would kill them, but before they would kill them, they would take certain liberties in the way in which they would prolong the person's suffering, and the creative ways in how they would do that, and how that would translate to the person's body after they were discovered. So just for like one example, this is quite common. They used to do this hundreds of years ago, back in the like the Middle Ages, where if someone had done something particularly egregious, they would I forget the exact terminology, but they would basically I'm sorry, this is awful. I'm sorry, guys. But they would basically like cut the person's abdomen open and they would take out all of their organs. And you have like, I forgot what they're called, but there's, I forget what everything is called. But you have certain organs that are quite long. So they would but they would take it out and trail it out, and the person could see it while they were dying. It's a horrible way to go. It's horrible. It's horrible. There's just no other way of saying it. Sorry, it's horrible. So that's just one example of the creative things that they would do to a person. Now, again, let's return to that concept that when you change the energetic expression of a place, you're going to also change the kind of people that are attracted to such a location. And that's very much what happened in Vegas. So you're getting a different kind of vibration, maybe a lower kind of vibration. And with that kind of lower energetic vibration, you're going to attract some, for lack of a better word, weirdos. And there's going to be, it's like flies to shit. Weirdos seem to always be able to find each other. And word was getting out that bodies were found in very interesting states of decomposition. And there was kind of a market for these kinds of things. That has not changed. Maybe the morgue keeper that was processing the bodies when they were coming in, maybe that person has changed. Maybe the person that is doing the autopsies, that person has changed. But the pecking order of who would get seated into such a position to keep this kind of dark, nefarious activity going is very much, it's not like by chance. Certain people that would be amenable to these kind of things were put into these positions. So again, it could be a different person that's doing the autopsy, it could be a different morgue keeper, it could be like a different ambulance driver that's transporting the bodies, it could be a different person, but it's all people that are in on it and all people that are amenable to this. So that has never changed. There is this underground network of people, specifically in Las Vegas, again, because of the energetic vibration of the place, but there is an underground network of people that are interested in unusual bodies that are found having done something particularly unusual to them. And yes, even celebrity bodies. And depending on how the body was discovered and what was done to it would very much determine the kind of bids that would come in for it. So some people might just want to have like photographs. So, you know, if an autopsy is done, the person who is doing it, they're taking photographs of the body. Not that hard to make copies and get that to someone who's paying for it. So either it could be photographs or it could be wanting to spend time with the body or something like that, something of that nature. That is what happened to Tupac's body. So I'm not going to say, here's the thing, it was the same body, but it came back to the morgue differently than the way that it had left the morgue, because things were done to the body. Look at it like this. People have all sorts of interesting and diverse extracurricular activities, right? Some people like to play sports. Some people like to collect sports cards. Some people like to collect sports cars. I don't know. Some people like to get a massage on their time off. Some people like to go work out, right? We all have different things that are unique to us, and we can always find people that are similar to us with our likes and how we like to spend our time. No different here. Weird people gonna do weird shit. Weird people gonna find other weird people. So it was not uncommon up until this time when Tupac's body had disappeared for some period of time, and that had really brought attention to this. But prior to this, it was not uncommon for the highest bidder to get to spend time with a deceased body for whatever reason. Use your imagination, okay? Your imagination will probably do a much better job than I could ever do on telling you what was going on. So, not uncommon, certain bodies would be bid on, right? Maybe it was the photo they wanted, maybe they had sick fantasies of, I don't know, whatever. Just use your imagination. But the morgue keeper at that time could not believe his luck that it was Tupac Shakur, because he knew the amount of money that was going to come in from the highest bidder for this was going to be like off the charts. In addition to that, he was going to get a significant amount of like gravitas for facilitating this. And it was worthwhile for him, even though it cast aspirations on his character and on his maybe morgue keeping ability or whatever it is. Like, how do you lose a body? How do you lose it's your goddamn job. How do you lose it? How many people have keys to a morgue? Can they just, dance on in there and take a body out of the morgue and then bring it back? Like, think about it. But it was because this person was so ingrained in the three-dimensional that it was worth it for him. It was worth it to, I don't even know if he lost his job or whatever the case was, whatever it was, the financial compensation was so worth it that he didn't even care. That is saying a lot. Now, what's also very, very interesting, and what I want to contrast that to, is Tupac himself. So Tupac or Mozart, same soul, different name, different bodies, different time periods, same soul. Contrast the actions of this morgue keeper, which was, he was completely entrenched only in the three-dimensional, right? Like, he was going to get gravitas for arranging this highest bidder. He was going to get money. He was going to get like the accolades from these, the sick little people that he associates with. Contrast that to the Tupac and the Mozart character. No attachment whatsoever to the three-dimensional. In fact, so no attachment that he left his physical body after he had concluded his soul's mission, which was to come and make an indelible impression on the music industry. As Mozart, it was to make these impressions and never be able to hear his masterpieces. As Tupac, it was to come in and to deliver the music that was given to him through his crown chakra, open crown chakra in his sleep, to create and deliver that into the world, but to leave before he had really gotten into the groove and had really been able to expand on that anymore. So it's the complete attachment to only the three-dimensional and no soul consciousness versus almost no attachment to the three-dimensional, almost no attachment to the ego at all, and only doing your soul purpose and then leaving. And I thought that was so fascinating. And actually, it kind of got me thinking about, like, if there's a takeaway from this whole story about Tupac, and in the way that he had crossed over as well, and in his life's purpose, and in his mission to come in here, which was that things do not have to be perfect for them to be meaningful. Things do not have to be perfect for them to have value. Because you had the Amadeus Mozart, who composed perhaps some of the most notable classical music ever without the ability to hear it. So he was an imperfect messenger, but his message was meaningful and valuable. And as Tupac, he was also perhaps an imperfect messenger, but his contribution is important and meaningful. So to take that and to maybe explore if there's a way that we can connect that to ourselves as well. Is there something we're doing or not doing? Probably more meaningful to say, what are we perhaps not doing? Because we have concerns about if it's going to be perfect. But things don't have to be perfect for them to be meaningful. And I'll actually apply that to this channel and the videos that I actually record. Which is to say, I was really, and I still am, not to say it's only in the past tense, but really jazzed up and excited about exploring what's behind the 3D veil. And not just exploring it and seeing it, but wanting to talk to other people and share the information that I had with them and build like my own little network and my own little community of people that are jazzed up about these things as well. So I said, you know what? I'm going to take the chance and I'm going to do this. I'm going to do it in my living room. I don't know shit about like editing videos. I don't have a professional microphone. I'm using my iPhone and a ring light that I bought on Amazon. But I wasn't going to allow the lack of professionalism to stop me from taking this chance and going out there and putting myself out there. Because I know if this feels like it's my soul's calling, then there's got to be other people that connect to it and are going to resonate with that. And the same thing is for anything that is your soul calling or feels like it might be your soul calling, and that perhaps you're afraid to take that first step. Maybe you don't want to put yourself out there. Maybe you think it has to be perfect for it to be meaningful. It doesn't. Whatever you are called to do, maybe you too are a starseed. Maybe you too, it is your soul's mission to come in here and to create something and to leave an impression or to leave an indelible mark on certain industries or certain beliefs or certain old establishments or anything. Whatever you feel called to do, listen to that, because that may be your soul's purpose in being here. So as always, I hope that you guys found this video to be interesting and insightful. I know it's a little bit different. It wasn't just about Tupac. It was more the long-term meaning and the long-term message in what it means to contribute as a whole. And if we feel called to it, not necessarily to allow the lack of perfection in it to hold us back from bringing forth that which is inside of us and feels like it is being called to be shared. So thank you guys for being here. I love this little community that we have built over here on YouTube. Thank you all. I may not know all of your names and I may not, mention you specifically, but you guys know who you are. You guys that are consistently here at every single video and you guys that are consistently commenting. I see you and I'm grateful for you. And everybody else, all my subscribers, anyone who is watching the video and liking it or just watching it, I'm grateful for you too. Thank you for being here. And as always, until next time, stay in the high vibration.